Well, we are very pleased to be able to welcome at 9.5 minutes past
that's
10
an
o'clock
understatement.
to say hello to Herald Sun journalist, television star, radio star these days as well, Joshua Barnes. Good morning to you, Josh.
Good morning, gentlemen. Always good to be here. Always good to be known as a friend of the show.
And also, not just all of those things, but I think the technical term the young folk like to use is you're an OG.
Yeah, I suppose so. I just made it out of Ballarat alive yesterday. Lightning strikes and thunderstorms and all that sort of stuff. I just got away in time.
Well, we're very pleased to hear that because it would have been really hard for Rob and I to fill 20 minutes in.
Please tell the old folk around what OG is, because that's one's gone straight over my head to the keeper.
Well,
I think that is an original gangster, I think is the start of the term.
I'm not going to need more explanation than that.
So if you look at, the Wiggles, the OGs were Jeff and Murray, and whereas all these later ones are sort of imitations, the OG are the people who were part of the original group, you might think.
Oh, right. So, yes, because I'm sitting in the chair that you used to sit in, Josh, and I'm feeling a little humbled being over here in this spot. But let's go back to that, and I want to go back even further because I remember you as a interested teenager at the South Bowen Footy Club where I very first met you, and then I saw you interviewing grumpy coaches after Geelong and District Footy League games and scribbling stuff for the Geelong Addy. It has been a wonderful journey that I reckon has got you where you should have been, maybe a lot quicker than even you expected, Josh.
Yeah, definitely. It has come along quite quickly. It feels like almost yesterday I was standing out in the cold waiting for the coaches to come out of the rooms, and always there's one coach that needs to have a very, very, very long meeting at 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening. You're standing out there, and you have to butt your head in a few times. It has changed.
Much better to butt your head in than head your butt in. That's what I say.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been rapid, and things just sort of came on surprisingly. Doing a bit of radio and a bit of TV and all that sort of stuff. So it's been good fun. Coming from those first days sitting on the mic next to you in those Pulse studios, Rob.
Yes, it's a long time ago, and I'm awfully pleased and proud, as I know your family are, of where you've got. But I suppose it's a mixture of hard work, certainly talent. You write really well, and I think you, and we found out from Neil and I from having you as expert commentator in the GoFooty.live days, you are a deep analyst of the games that you love. I know you're a cricket fan as well as footy, but you really understand. You spent a lot of time as a youngster learning that. And I think some of the best praise I had was the privilege of interviewing Chris Scott. Your name come up being a former Geelong and District Footy League scribe, and he did say exactly that he has been probably drawn to you more than most because you do actually understand what you're talking about, and you ask questions that are relevant. And I suppose that, going all the way back to your teenage years, developing who you are has been maybe why you've got to where you are so quickly.
Yeah, I suppose so. As long as you can help get some of the respect to those important people, that always helps. I think a lot of it is sort of luck. If you're in the right spot at the right time, then things seem to fall your way. But obviously, there's a fair bit of hard work involved. So it's as long as the pieces fall together, sometimes things work out better than you might expect, and maybe a bit quicker than you expect.
Was there a particular article that you wrote maybe that opened a door for you? Thinking back, was there something you presented to an editor that may have elevated you a little bit quicker than expected?
That is a good question. I don't think so. I think generally, once I got sort of started at Geelong Addy, the key there was obviously quality, but we needed a fair bit of sort of volume given the dwindling staff numbers to fill the paper. So getting good stuff regularly and then filling the paper with multiple good stuff a day, I think was sort of the key in those days. So once you could repeat that day after day and week after week, then I think that sort of, I guess, impressed the right people, I suppose. But they might be questions better for them. I think once you sort of get yourself into a bit of a rhythm and know your way around places, I think that was sort of the key in, I don't know, moving up the chain, I suppose.
One of my favourites was that article you wrote about the cake show that was at the Coburg Elderly Sits in the Moreland Standard. I thought that was quite good.
Yeah, well, working in community journalism, I miss those days sometimes when we had a community paper and you had to fill it almost completely. I had to fill everything except the sports section, so there was a lot of
quite ironic
there that that you wouldn't sort of be writing these days that people sort of loved. It was good to tell those stories that matter to people, even if it might matter to a smaller section of the population than you might think. At least it matters to someone, and they might cut it out and put it on their fridge forever. So telling a story about a cake shop or someone that's going to be in a play, it might sound a bit frivolous to some people, but I actually really enjoyed those. Those were some of the best ones when you got to spend some time with people and hang out with them.
And I think that, and I was a bit tongue-in-cheek, obviously, but that's the equivalent of community radio, isn't it, the local paper? And it does deeply impact on individuals, and at the same time gives you an opportunity to practice, if you like, if that's not too harsh a word, without having the whole world looking at you.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that is a real shame for a lot of aspects of why those sort of jobs seem to have disappeared. We still have a sort of footprint at News Corp in community news, but certainly nowhere near even half the standard that we had when I started at the Leader, when we had hundreds of people in one office, and we were spread in 4 different offices, and we all had a paper each. I think we had 36 papers or something like that went out every single week, and you had to fill it every single week. And it is a real shame that not only those stories don't get told and those people don't get featured in the paper and get a chance to tell those stories and get them out there, but also we miss out on journalists getting a chance to train themselves up, learn how to deal with police, deal with people, deal with the council, all that sort of stuff. There was a lot of different areas you had to work with. You're missing out on that, I think, a lot these days, which is a real shame. There's a lot of missing training, I think, for journalists that would have gone on, not just in my era, but eras gone by. Maybe it's a good thing we don't get the training in the pub as much, though. That might be a plus.
I may have answered my own question when I asked you about how did you get to where you are so quickly, because I do remember thinking back now and taking Neil's tongue-in-cheek comment that I talked to you regularly through that period of time where you were working in that environment, doing all the things that were different to what you hope to eventually do, and that's write about sport that you truly love. But I never remember you being grumpy or upset about it. You always seem to adopt that, well, this is part of what I need to do to get where I need to be, and you were always talking positively about these community stories that you just said, and that's probably one of the reasons maybe that the editors in your future world look back on that part of your life as an important part of your development.
Yeah, potentially. And I think I would have found it hard to justify myself complaining about working in the industry when so many people try to get a foot in the door in our industry, and you struggle so much these days. There's so many less jobs than there were even when I started. All those jobs we're talking about in community papers, most of them are gone and have not been replaced. So complaining about working as a journalist, I think, would have been a little bit harsh on my behalf. So just getting a chance to do it and see where it takes me, I think, was always going to be a plus. So you wouldn't hear me complaining, at least unless I had to do too many cake shows, I suppose.
But I think the other thing is too, back in the olden days when radio presenters on commercial stations had never played a game of AFL football, nor had they been on an influencer's reality show, back in the days when they were broadcasters, you would go and you would do a stint at Orange, and then you'd head out to Roma, and then you'd head across to Perth, and it's the equivalent, I guess, and that sort of getting a grounding in knowing how you do stuff makes you a better journalist, presenter, whatever it is. Yeah,
definitely. That's I think that even that aspect of it is sort of been shaved down a lot. A lot of people would come from the country and as print reporters, they would work at a country paper and make their way into town if they managed to get that far or went in that direction. Even cadets at newspapers, there used to be hundreds of them, I think, back in the day. Now there's a very, very slim cadet team each year, at our paper at least, and it is hard to get in there. You don't have the paper boys. That's where even a few of the journos still at the paper started as copy boys running around from desk to desk, taking news and getting it onto the press. There were so many more people around, and that was a way to get into the game and learn how it all works. Now you sort of get chucked into a deep ocean sometimes and are expected to swim. So it is a shame that so many of those jobs and pathways seem to have, and if not fully closed off, the path is a lot thinner than it used to be.
And I guess when Rob was your age, if he had of becoming a journalist, the only thing he really needed to have was a shilling in his pocket to make a phone call, whereas these days, carrying on a laptop and doing it yourself.
No phones then, mate.
That's right. The wind-up ones. Mabel, can you put me through, please, to Melbourne?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Hey, Barnesy, you're heading off to Paralympics this week, and it may have to wait till you get home, but we've had broadcasters on here, and this is a question I love to ask them, and you've probably had enough experience now, but what would you like to write most? The a review of the AFL Grand Final, the review of the first day of the Boxing Day Test, or the review of the Olympic 100-metre sprint?
Oh, gee, that's a question. Probably the 100-metre sprint, I think. That's only just from the fact that I have done a grand final. I haven't done a Boxing Day Test, but I do think the 100-metre sprint, it's only held every 4 years, and it is the top tier of sport, I think. Once you know who is the fastest man or woman on earth, I think that is a different strategy. More people would watch that than ever. It's over so quick, but yet there's still sort of so much to dissect. So I think doing something like that would be incredible. I am heading to the Paralympics in Italy on Tuesday. I'll fly out, so I'll get a taste of sort of that games village and what it's all like over there. It should be really fun to do something completely different to the start of a footy season, getting onto the ice slopes and all that sort of business. So that'll be really fun, and just seeing how the whole village and all that sort of system works. That'll be really good to check out. So I'm looking forward to that and doing something unusual.
Take some thick socks with you would be my suggestion.
The story within the story is the thing I love about writing about sport, and then the comparisons are you're comparing a 10-second event to a 2-hour event to a 6-hour event. So much more content of the actual thing, but the 100-metre sprint, it's the individual stories of the athletes getting there, the training, the psychological part of it. I suppose that would be really challenging for a journalist to write, I don't know, 1,000 words about a 10-second event. That would definitely be challenge your credibility.
Yeah, it would be hard to sort of fit that all in, but I'm sure that's where you have all your previews and all that sort of stuff leading into the race. So one question I've been asked 100 times, I think, in the lead up to when I started going to the Paralympics is, do you know anything about the Paralympic sports? And I have brushed up on them, but I think people sort of almost underestimate how much the sport isn't that important sometimes in the stories, if that makes any sense.
It does make a lot of sense, yes.
These Paralympians and how they've got to this position, a lot of them have unbelievable stories of determination coming back from horrific incidents in their life to get onto ski slopes that some of them have never even touched before they had those incidents. So those are the stories I think people want to read more than they want to read why someone finished second in a race. So I think
I agree wholeheartedly. That's a very good point. Josh, just to give an indication of your workload, how many words a week would you write and have printed these days?
Words a week? That is a good question. I would guess maybe 2,000 to 3,000 potentially.
Which is similar to the workload you had with it. The reason I ask this question is because I've sort of followed you through and we've talked about this before, and doing a bit myself and trying to make comparisons. But is it these days, is the content and the research where you are now perhaps more intense than it was at the Addy?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think given the larger team we would have at the Herald Sun, the focus is more on quality than the quantity that I mentioned earlier at the Addy, which isn't to say that you write bad stories at the Addy, but you sort of have to fill some spots sometimes, whereas at the Herald Sun we're a lot more focused on doing things that are well read and making the most of them, if that makes sense, and spending a little bit of extra time to get the right stories and get them correct. So that's the benefit of having a larger team instead of a team of 4 or 5 journalists in the sports section at the Addy. It's a lot larger at the Herald Sun, and that's only in the AFL team that I'm in. We've got all the other sports as well that we often don't get involved in. So you can take your time a little bit more, but you never really know each week what's going to happen. In the next 5 minutes, one of the biggest stories in footy history could be breaking somewhere online on Twitter, and then there goes the rest of your day, and there goes 1,000 words. So
yeah. Just before we get into the season, as a group, does Josh Barnes get to say to the editor, I'm going to write a story about this week, or are you told what you need to go and write about?
Definitely a bit of a give and take. I'll present some ideas, and sometimes there are ideas that I like that nobody else does, and sometimes I get given ideas that I'm not so huge on, but I talk myself into them. It's always a working back and forth, trying to make sure that somebody's covering the things that need to be covered, and then we're doing the things that we think we want to be doing. It's always a back and forth, but certainly, you work with each other. I pitch a lot of the stuff I do, and quite a few other things also get sort of pitched to me.
Sounds like a baseball game, doesn't it?
It does.
We've got only 5 or 6 minutes left, and there's something we need to talk to you about before we close up. So let's spend a few minutes talking AFL season 2026. The obvious question is, who's going to be premiers, who's going to win the Brownlow, who's going to win the goal kicking. Off you go.
No pressure.
Yeah. Well, you're the expert here.
I think Brisbane, as you all know, Neil, certainly deserve to be favourites heading into the year, and I'm really only just not picking them to be contrarian, to be honest. I think they probably have the best list. I think they probably deserve to be the number one seed, but I think Sydney will give it a real shake this year. They finished the season really well. They fielded the hole that they needed to in their forward line. Errol Goulden is back and playing. Once he's playing, they're a completely different side. So I think they'll be the big riser. I think they'll be the main contender to Brisbane. And I think we'll see a very interstate sort of top half of the ladder. I think Gold Coast will be in the top 4. I think Fremantle will be very good. I think Adelaide will probably finish in the top 6. So then you're starting to run out of spots for the Victorian side. So I think we'll be watching a lot of the September on the TV. Brownlow medal, I think you'd probably be silly not to pick Nick Dacos, but I reckon Marcus Bontempelli will get it this year eventually. He would have gone very close last year if he did miss those first 7 or 8 weeks through injury. And what was the last one? Coleman medal. I reckon Ben King will win that one. Gold Coast kicked a lot of goals. He kicked 70 last year, and I'm not sure he even had that good of a year. So I think he'll win the Coleman and then sign a monster contract at the end of this season.
I think you're right. I reckon there'll be 6 interstate teams in the top 8 without much doubt.
Can I just jump in there for a moment? You hate people talking about the game of football being called AFL. When you talk about interstate sides, are you talking about non-Victorian sides? Is that what you mean?
Well, I live in Victoria, so we view it from Victoria, and the sides that aren't in Victoria are interstate. So the sides outside of the state I live in, 6 of them will play finals this year.
The AFL chairman stood up not chairman, whatever he calls himself, Andrew Dillon, stood up and said, it's great to see the interstate sides doing so well. And the Western Australians went, what, all 16 of them? And the Sydney siders went, what, all 16 of them? Because interestingly enough, it won't be long before there are more non-Melbourne-based teams than there are Melbourne-based teams.
Correct, but if you still live in Victoria, they'll still be interstate teams.
I disagree.
Well, I don't know how else to describe them.
Non-Victorian.
Non-Victorian or interstate. Either way, it's the same result. But 6 of them will play finals anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. I can't see...
We're interstate from here, at least, from where I'm sitting.
Well, again, where are you sitting?
That maybe he was in Perth for Origin, so then maybe he was talking about the WA side. Although one of them...
That's a good point.
...doing well for quite a while.
Yeah, I can't see the Eagles making it. I don't think Power will make it. But, yes, I think the other 6 non-Victorian teams might. And when we have a 7th non-Victorian team, that's going to make it... the 9th one from down south.
I reckon they'll take a while before they're knocking on the door of the top 8.
Either that or they'll go out and buy everyone that they need. Now, Barnesy, before we let you go, I kind of got you on here under false pretences as well. Yes, of course, your story is very interesting and your thoughts on the AFL season are critical, but the time has come. We have an accolade that we don't dish out very often. We have dished it out to 3 people. We are today acknowledging you as a legendary friend of the Blokes. Now, there's only 3 ahead of you. You are the 4th legendary friend of the Blokes. Congratulations.
Do we get sort of like baggy greens made up with numbers and things like that? Is there a cap presentation that I'm...
Well, yes, actually, that's going to happen on Wednesday. Can you be there?
I might have to zoom in on that one.
Oh, disappointing. Oh, well, in that case, we'll have to give it a miss. So congratulations. It is, it's a bit of fun, but it's also an acknowledgement of both your contribution to our program, but also the fact that we are very excited about how you have gone on to bigger and better things. You joined Russell Morris, Ian Cover and Ross Stevenson as our legendary friends of the Blokes.
I feel like the quality of that list is sort of cratered away a little bit with the last name that's not me, but that is a great company to be in. It's always great company to be in on the show as well. So legendary status, that's as good as it gets. That is sort of the top tier in the Hall of Fame, usually in sports.
Well, it is in our Hall of Fame, yes. So well done you. It's and the fact that it coincides with your, I think, first international assignment by going to the Paralympics is just a bit of a bonus.
Do I call it international, though? Or is it...
No, because it is an international event, not an overseas. It is
It's a non-Australian event.
It is an event that... No, it includes Australia.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, because Australia's part of it. It's an international event. It could be happening in Melbourne, but it's an international event, is what I'm saying.
Righto. Now, Josh, quick question. We know you're a radio star, a media star. You've popped your head on television a little bit. Are we going to be seeing a little bit more of your mush on television this year?
I think it'll be pretty standard as the last few years on midweek tackle on Fox. That is 7:30 p.m. on a Tuesday night. For all those who don't tune in, make sure you set that into your weekly calendar. I'll just be part of the rotation as usual. No more plans to be on any more than expected at this stage. We on once a week for the start of the year, so hopefully we can get into 2 times a week once the Thursday games disappear in the back end, but we'll see about that. But I should be on roughly, I'd say, once a month or so, just learning the craft.
Have you employed a stylist yet?
No, I don't know what shirt I'm going to wear every time I rock up there.
I can tell you for a fact, looking across the desk, Rob hasn't employed one.
No, definitely not.
Barnesy,
in my follicle challenges, the makeup takes a little bit longer than it used to.
Yeah.
Bit more needed on the forehead.
Well, you could do what Rob does at the moment. He's wearing a cap in the studio and has been all day. I don't know why. It's not for the sun. Barnesy, congratulations on everything you've achieved so far. Most of course, the becoming a legendary friend of the Blokes. But go well. Enjoy your time in Italy, and we'll see if we can't have a chat to you later in the year about how that went.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for the honour. Thanks for the privilege. Anytime. I appreciate it.
Good on you, mate. Best wishes.
There he is, Josh Barnes, Herald Sun journalist and legendary friend of the Blokes.